The rain had settled into a steady murmur, drumming against the fragile panes of Lena's bookstore, like the ticking of a clock counting down to some inevitable fracture. Elias sat opposite her in the cramped back room, the faint scent of old paper and damp stone tablets filling the air. His eyes, sharp and unyielding, searched her face for answers that the shadows seemed to hide. "You didn't tell me about the meetings," Elias said, voice low but edged with accusation. "Not one hint that you were talking to Gray's people behind our backs." Lena's gaze flickered, glasses slightly askew, auburn hair catching the dim light in rebellious glints. "It wasn't like that," she whispered, voice trembling. "I was trying to protect you. We knew the ledger was more fragile than we thought. I thought if I could control the flow of information." Control. Elias's laugh was dry, bitter. "You kept secrets. You became part of the problem." The tension between them coiled tighter than the stone tablets etched with debts that lined the shelves. Trust, once solid as granite, now seemed to crumble beneath the weight of half-truths. Later, in the precinct's sterile hallway, Marcus Vile paced with a heaviness that mirrored the storm outside. His badge gleamed faintly beneath the flickering fluorescent lights, but the loyalty it symbolized felt tarnished, worn thin by years of moral compromise. "Elias," Marcus said, voice rough from sleepless nights and too many compromises. "I'm with you, but there are lines I can't cross without losing myself." Elias watched the gruff detective wrestle with his conscience, understanding the cost of allegiance in a city bound by debts carved in stone and shadow. The confrontation with Silas Reed came under the cold glow of flickering streetlights, where the fog curled like smoke from a dying flame. Silas's presence was a threat in itself, his rugged frame a living warning etched in muscle and menace. "You're out of your depth, Carr," Silas growled, voice low and dangerous. "Gray's got eyes everywhere. You're just another debt waiting to be collected." Elias's reply was steady, his dry wit cutting through the tension like a chisel on stone. "Then I guess it's time I start collecting." The final revelation came quietly, in the stillness of Clara Bell's apartment. The air was thick with dust and the soft rustle of stone tablets as Clara pulled back layers of years in silence to reveal a ledger that defied the city's polished facade. Her pale face was etched with sorrow, the weight of secrets pressing down like the very stones that bore the marks of debts long forgotten. "He kept things from all of us," she said softly, eyes distant. "But maybe now they won't stay buried." Bonds that had once seemed unbreakable fractured under the strain of lies and fear. Elias found himself standing alone on a precipice, the city's shadows closing in, trust a fragile thing shattered like the broken tablets scattered through the streets. Yet beneath the weight of betrayal, his resolve hardened. The debts carved in stone were more than financial. They were the ties that bound the living to the dead, the past to the present, and the truth to the lies that threatened to erase it all. As the night deepened, Elias knew the game had changed. Friend and foe blurred into one indistinguishable mass, and the only certainty was that in this city, no debt could ever truly be repaid. And somewhere in the distance, the vanishing point of truth beckoned him onward, into the heart of darkness, where the final reckoning awaited. The rain slowed, but the storm inside Elias did not. The rain had not ceased since dawn, its relentless tapping a somber percussion against the grimy window of Elias Carr's apartment. The city outside was a blur of wet neon and shadowed alleys, the stone-carved debts of its inhabitants as immutable as the gray sky. Yet inside, Elias grappled with a weight far heavier than any tablet could bear, the burden of memories etched into his soul. He sat in the dim light, the flicker of a lone lamp casting long shadows across the worn floorboards. His fingers traced the contours of a smooth, cold stone pendant resting against his chest, a talisman against the past he could never forget. That pendant was a relic of a friendship, shattered by the very debts he now sought to unravel, a friendship lost to violence born of desperation and broken promises. The ledger system, with its rigid permanence, had marked more than just financial obligations. It had carved wounds into lives, including his own. As the hours stretched, Elias's thoughts drifted to the faces of those caught in the relentless grind of the city's debt machinery. He recalled his recent meeting with Clara Bell, the victim's estranged sister, a woman whose grief was as palpable as the stone tablets themselves. Her story was not merely a recounting of facts, but a raw confession of pain and betrayal. She spoke of nights spent haunted by the silence of vanished debts, of family ties severed by unrelenting financial chains. Later that afternoon, Elias found himself in the cramped confines of Lena Marsh's bookstore, a sanctuary amid the city's turmoil. The air was heavy with the scent of aged paper and ink, a stark contrast to the cold permanence of stone. Together, they sifted through a stack of forbidden documents, tattered ledgers, and faded records that bore witness to the human cost behind the ledger system's facade. Lena's quiet determination was a steady flame in the encroaching darkness, her empathy a balm to Elias's weary spirit. Their conversation was punctuated by the soft rustle of pages and the distant murmur of the city beyond the shop's windows. Each document revealed stories of broken lives, of debts that transcended currency and bled into trust and honor. Elias listened, absorbing the weight of each tale, feeling the familiar knot of guilt tighten in his chest. The day waned, and with it, Elias's resolve only deepened. Yet the price of such knowledge was steep. The shadows in his mind grew longer, entwining with the memories of Marcus Vale, the gruff detective whose loyalty was as conflicted as the city they served. Elias remembered the night he had found Marcus standing on a rooftop, gazing out over the sprawling metropolis. The detective's face was a mask of hardened resolve, but his eyes betrayed a man torn between duty and conscience. That night, the distant wail of sirens echoed through the streets, a haunting soundtrack to Marcus's internal battle. Elias understood that the fight against the ledger's corruption was not only waged in smoky back rooms or rain-soaked alleys, it was fought within hearts and minds, within the fragile boundaries of morality. As Elias stepped back into the rain, the stone pendant pressed firmly against his chest. He acknowledged the heavy toll the debt system exacted, not just in lost fortunes, but in shattered lives and fractured souls. Each tablet carved into the city's fabric was a story of sacrifice and sorrow, a testament to debts far beyond the ledger's cold surface. With every step through the sodden streets, Elias carried both the burden and the hope that the stones might one day bear witness not just to debts repaid, but to justice reclaimed. Yet he also knew the truth was fragile like the stone tablets themselves, and that some fractures might never fully heal. The night deepened, thick with rain and the weight of unspoken debts. Elias's eyes, sharp and resolute, scanned the horizon where shadows gathered. The price of stone was steep, but the cost of silence was far greater. And so, with a heart heavy yet determined, he plunged once more into the labyrinth of stone and secrets, knowing that the path ahead was as treacherous as it was necessary. In the city where debts were carved in stone and erased in shadow, Elias Carr faced the ultimate reckoning, not only with the corruption that threatened to consume the city, but with the debts etched into his own soul. The journey was far from over. The stones had many stories left to tell, and Elias was determined to hear them all, no matter the cost. The rain intensified, blurring the city lights into a kaleidoscope of sorrow and hope. Somewhere in the distance, a stone tablet cracked, an omen of change, or a warning of deeper fractures to come. Elias tightened his grip on the pendant, his gaze unwavering. The price of stone was a debt he was willing to pay, and the ledger was far from closed. The rain had turned the city's streets into a slick mirror of flickering neon and fractured shadows. Detective Elias Carr moved through the downpour like a ghost tethered to the stone beneath his feet, every step a reminder of the debts, carved not just into the city's ledger, but into its soul. Victor Gray's shadow loomed larger than ever. The man's cold ambition was no longer hidden behind polished smiles and whispered deals. It had erupted into outright aggression, a calculated, ruthless campaign to silence Elias and anyone who dared to challenge the ledger's sanctity. Elias's phone buzzed in the pocket of his warm trench coat. He pulled it out, the screen glowing faintly against the dark. Lena's voice came through, steady but edged with urgency. "They're closing in, Elias. Silas Reed's men are everywhere. We have to be careful." The mention of Silas sent a cold shiver down his spine. The enforcer was a living scar on the city's face, brutal, unyielding, and utterly loyal to Victor Gray. Elias had tangled with him before, and each encounter left a deeper wound. He ducked into a narrow alleyway, the rain dripping steadily from the fire escapes above. The sound of footsteps splashing behind him quickened. He didn't need to look back to know who was coming. The barrel of a gun pressed into the small of his back, cold and relentless. "Going somewhere, detective." A voice snarled. Elias didn't answer. He twisted sharply, catching the attacker's wrist and wrenching the weapon away. The fight was brutal and swift. Fists pounded against stone walls, the echo of grunts and curses mixing with the relentless rain. When the last of the attackers lay groaning on the wet pavement, Elias knew this was only the beginning. Victor Gray was no longer content to manipulate from the shadows. He was tearing through the city like a storm, erasing debts and threats alike with equal ferocity. Back in the safety of Lena's bookstore, the air was thick with the scent of old paper and dust. The warm glow of lamplight was a fragile barrier against the chill outside. Lena hunched over a cluttered desk, her fingers trembling slightly as she reviewed documents proof of the ledger's corruption and the dark rituals used to erase tablets. Her phone rang sharply. She answered with a steady voice, though her eyes flickered with worry. "They're coming for us," she whispered. "Victor's tightening the noose. We have to move fast." Across town, Victor Gray watched the rain cascade down his office window. His sharp features were illuminated by the city's restless glow. A cold smile traced his lips as he considered the chaos unfolding. Every move was precise, every threat a calculated step toward absolute control. "Let them try," he murmured. "The stones will break, but the ledger remains." Meanwhile, Marcus Vale sat across from Elias in a dim precinct interrogation room. The air between them was thick with unspoken truths and the weight of looming danger. "You're playing a dangerous game," Marcus said, voice low but firm. "The department's split. Some want to help. Others are too deep in the mess." Elias's eyes, sharp and tired, met Marcus's. "I don't have a choice. If we don't stop Gray, the city's debts will be more than just numbers on stone. They'll be the chains that bind us all." Marcus nodded slowly, the conflict clear in his guarded expression. "Then we fight, but we do it smart." As night deepened, the city held its breath. Elias knew the coming days would test not just his skills, but his very soul. The ledger's shadow stretched long and dark, but so did his resolve. He tightened the stone pendant around his neck, a silent vow echoing in the rain. No matter the cost, the truth would not vanish like the stones they carved. And somewhere, in the heart of the city, Victor Gray prepared his next move, one that would push Elias to the edge of erasure itself. The battle for the city's soul had begun. The rain had been relentless all night, a cold, drumming percussion that hammered against the city's stone and steel veins. Detective Elias Carr's trench coat clung to him, soaked through, the weight of water mingling with the weight of the day's losses. He stood in the cramped back room of Lena Marsh's bookstore, the faint glow of a single lamp casting long shadows over the splintered fragments that lay scattered across the floor. It was a ruin of stone, once a tablet, etched with the victim's debts and secrets. now smashed to pieces like the fragile trust Elias had fought so hard to build. They came in while I was gone. Lena's voice was low, edged with a quiet fury. Smashed the tablet, tore through the records. It's like they want to wipe everything clean. Elias knelt, letting his fingers hover over the jagged edges. The cold, rough surfaces, the faint dust that still hung in the air. It was a brutal reminder of how easily truth could be shattered. No fingerprints, he muttered. No sign of forced entry. Someone knew exactly what to destroy. Lena's eyes met his, steady despite the tremor in her hands. They're getting desperate. Outside, the storm raged on, lightning splitting the sky as if the city itself was fracturing under the weight of unseen forces. Elias's gaze hardened. The ledger system, once a solid foundation of justice, now revealed itself as brittle, fractured by cracks of corruption and fear. The following night, the city's shadows became a hunting ground. Elias moved through the rain-slicked alleys, senses sharp, every echo amplified in the stillness between storms. A sudden movement, a figure, lunging from the darkness. Silas Reed. The fight was brutal, the clash of fists and the sharp scent of wet stone and sweat filling the narrow alley. Elias's jaw stung from a well-placed blow, but each strike deepened his resolve. "You'll have to do better than that," he gasped, dodging another swing. Silas sneered, his breath ragged. "You're out of your depth, Carr." But Elias wasn't backing down. With a swift move, he forced Silas back, buying himself precious seconds to escape into the misty streets. The message was clear: threats were escalating, and the noose was tightening. Back in the safety of his apartment, the weight of the city pressed down on Elias like the heavy stone tablets he so often studied. Marcus Vale arrived, his face drawn, eyes shadowed under the grime of the day. "Another tablet's gone missing," Marcus said grimly, "and the brass are breathing down my neck." Elias rubbed the stone pendant hanging from his neck, a talisman against the tide of erasure. "They want to bury this," he said. "But every broken piece only proves how rotten the foundation is." The two men shared a moment of quiet understanding, the fractures in the system mirrored in their weary eyes. The next morning, Elias stood before the towering wall of the city's stone registry. Rows of tablets stretched before him, some pristine, others cracked or missing entirely, silent witnesses to debts owed and erased. The cold, unyielding surfaces seemed to mock him, their permanence a stark contrast to the fleeting nature of truth. A gust of wind stirred the dust at his feet, and Elias felt the weight of the city's burdens settle deeper into his bones. Yet beneath the melancholy lay a spark of determination to piece together the broken, to find the truth hidden beneath shattered stone. The fragile balance was tipping, and Elias knew the next moves would define not just the outcome of his investigation, but the soul of the city itself. Somewhere in the ruins of broken tablets and shattered trust lay the key to justice, or its final erasure. And Elias Carr was ready to fight for it, no matter the cost. The rain began again, relentless and unyielding, as the city held its breath on the edge of upheaval. The rain had eased to a steady drizzle by the time Elias Carr reached the towering building that housed the man who had turned the city's debts into weapons of control. The cold night air bit through his worn trench coat, but he paid it no mind. His eyes, sharp and unyielding, scanned the neon-lit streets far below from the shadowed rooftop across the alley. The city was a fractured mirror of light and darkness, each flicker reflecting debts carved in stone, debts that had long outlived their owners, debts that shaped destinies. Elias tugged at the stone pendant resting against his chest, a talisman and a reminder of the friend he had lost to this merry system. Tonight was no time for regrets. He had to confront Victor Gray, the man whose cold ambition had twisted the ledger into a weapon of silence and fear. The faint hum of the city was punctuated by distant sirens, a chorus to the unspoken violence etched into every corner of this urban labyrinth. Slipping through the back entrance, Elias navigated the sterile corridors with a practiced ease. The scent of polished marble and expensive cologne mingled with the faintest hint of damp stone, a subtle reminder of the ledger's omnipresence. His footsteps echoed softly as he approached the private elevator, pressing the button for the penthouse suite where Victor held court. The doors slid open to reveal an office bathed in a muted glow. Expansive windows framed the cityscape below, neon lights fracturing across the polished stone floor like shards of broken promises. Victor Gray sat behind a heavy marble desk, his sharp features illuminated by the soft light. He regarded Elias with a cold, calculating gaze that seemed to strip away pretense and lay bare the man beneath. Detective Carr, Victor's voice was smooth, almost amused. "I was wondering when you'd show up." Elias didn't smile. "I'm here because the city's bleeding, Victor. And you're the surgeon with the scalpel." Victor's eyes flicked toward the meticulously arranged stone tablets displayed behind his desk, each a record of debts, some erased, others forcibly maintained. "The ledger is the city's backbone. Without it, chaos." "Or corruption," Elias countered, stepping closer. "You've been erasing debts that don't belong to you, manipulating the system for your gain." A shadow crossed Victor's face, fleeting but unmistakable. "Power demands sacrifice, Elias. You know that as well as I do." The detective's hands tightened into fists. "Sacrifice. You're sacrificing lives. You're breaking stones that can never be mended." From the shadows near the entrance, Lena Marsh and Detective Marcus Vale exchanged tense glances, their breaths visible in the cold air. They had provided Elias with crucial intel, risking their safety to expose the rot beneath the city's polished surface. "You think you're the city's savior?" Victor's voice dropped, sharp as shattered glass. "I'm the necessary evil that keeps it running." Elias stepped forward, voice low but steady. "No system built on broken promises lasts forever. The stones you break today will be the foundation of your ruin tomorrow." For a long moment, silence hung heavy between them, broken only by the distant wail of sirens and the soft drip of rain against the windows. Then Victor's lips curled into a cold smile. "We'll see, Detective. We'll see." The confrontation left Elias shaken but resolute. He knew the path ahead was fraught with danger, but the ledger's shadow was no longer an impenetrable fortress. The cracks were showing, and with every step, Elias was determined to bring the truth to light, no matter the cost. As he left the penthouse, the city stretched out before him, a mosaic of debts and dreams, stone and shadow. And somewhere within that vast, fractured tapestry lay the hope that one day the stones might be set right again. But for now, the night was still young, and the ledger's shadow loomed large. Elias paused at the rooftop edge, eyes fixed on the horizon where the first pale fingers of dawn threatened the darkness. The city was waiting, and so was justice. The night hung heavy over the city, a thick cloak of rain and shadow settling over every cracked pavement and flickering street lamp. Detective Elias Carr moved through the deserted industrial district with the weight of many unanswered questions pressing against his ribs. The sound of his footsteps echoed faintly, swallowed quickly by the relentless drizzle hammering the broken windows of the abandoned stone quarry ahead. This was the place Victor Gray had summoned him to a final gambit. Elias suspected the stage for a reckoning long overdue. Elias paused at the mouth of the quarry, the air cold and damp, redolent of wet stone and rusted iron. The cavernous space yawned before him, littered with jagged slabs of granite and shattered remnants of tablets, their inscriptions worn by time and neglect. A single bare bulb hung from a fraying cable, casting a pale, flickering light that danced across the rough faces of stone and the wet concrete floor. Victor stood near the center, impeccably dressed despite the ruin around him. His sharp features were etched with a cold, calculating calm, the kind that made you certain he had already won the game before it began. "You came," Victor said, his voice smooth, unruffled by the storm outside or the tension thickening the air between them. Elias didn't smile, but his eyes narrowed, sharp as the edge of a chisel. "You wanted me here. I'm listening." Victor's gaze flicked to the scattered stone fragments at their feet. "This city runs on debts carved into stone, immutable, eternal. That's the order I've preserved, Elias. Without it, chaos swallows us all." Elias's fingers brushed the stone pendant that hung low beneath his coat, an anchor amidst the shifting sands of corruption. "Immutable. You erased debts. You manipulated the ledger system. You traded justice for control. Control is justice," Victor countered smoothly, stepping closer, the light catching the glint of his cufflinks like cold knives. "Some debts are too dangerous to leave unpaid. The ledger must be kept clean, the stones unbroken." A bitter laugh escaped Elias. "Some stones, once shattered, never mend. And some debts aren't meant to be repaid, no matter how much you try to erase them." Victor's eyes darkened, the thin veneer of civility cracking. "You think you're the one to fix this, to break the system. You're just a man clinging to ghosts and grudges. The city needs order, even if it comes at a price." The rain intensified, drumming against the quarry's fractured roof like a war drum. Elias took a slow step forward, voice low and steady. "Order built on lies isn't order. It's a prison. And I'm here to tear down your walls." Suddenly, the distant sound of footsteps echoed from the quarry's entrance. Lena Marsh and Detective Marcus Vale emerged from the shadows, their faces taut with worry. Lena's auburn hair was damp, glasses fogged by the chill. Marcus's badge gleamed faintly under the weak light, his stocky frame tense and ready. Victor's lips curled into a sneer. "You brought company. How quaint." Elias glanced over his shoulder, then back at Victor. "You're finished. The truth is out. The city's eyes are opening." Victor's laugh was low and harsh. "Truth is a stone thrown into the water. It ripples, distorts, then sinks to the bottom, forgotten." The air thickened with menace as Victor suddenly lunged toward Elias, a swift and brutal attempt to silence the detective once and for all. Elias dodged, the sharp crack of stone colliding with flesh ringing through the quarry. The fight was fierce and desperate, a collision of wills as much as fists. Stone fragments flew, echoing the shattered illusions that had held the city captive for so long. Elias felt the sting of a blow catch his ribs, breath rasping, but his resolve only hardened. He parried, landing a solid strike that sent Victor sprawling against the cold stone wall. Panting, Elias knelt beside the fallen man, voice quiet but resolute. "You wanted control? But control built on broken promises and erased debts is no control at all. It's a legacy of pain." Victor's cold gaze met his, a flicker of something unspoken passing between them: regret, ambition, the weight of 1,000 unfulfilled debts. Outside, the storm began to abate, the rain softening to a whisper. Lena and Marcus moved closer, ready to take Victor into custody. Elias rose slowly, clutching his side, the pain sharp but secondary to the victory. The ledger system's corruption had been exposed, but the cost was clear. As Elias looked around at the scattered stones, the shattered ledger fragments, he knew the city's wounds were far from healed. Some debts and betrayals would linger, etched not just in stone, but in the hearts of its people. Yet amidst the ruin, a fragile hope glimmered like a stone pendant catching the first light of dawn. The fight for justice was far from over, but Elias Carr had struck a blow for truth and endurance. The quarry fell silent, save for the distant rumble of thunder rolling away into the horizon. And in the quiet that followed, the stones seemed to hold their breath, waiting to see if the city would finally learn to live beyond its debts.